Hey, good evening, world. How's everybody doing? It's your boy, Birds Eye View, better known as Melanin That's Woke. And as promised, I'm before you tonight, and we're going to pick up where we left off last night, and we're going to continue this journey and this exploration down the book of Revelation. Day 3. We made it. We made it. We made it. Man, it's beautiful. Today was, man, quite the day. I had a lot going on as far as work and just life and things and so on and so forth. But sticking true to the obligation and sticking through. Just what I set forth, what I set out for myself, and just doing my part. So I want to thank you in advance for everybody that will, view this message either live or in the future. Just most definitely want to give my acknowledgement and appreciation for you being along the journey. So it's also my hope that this is beneficial or helping individuals either to answer perhaps some questions that you had, some lingering questions, some lingering thoughts. Perhaps either give you some thoughts or some things to kind of focus on. But most importantly, to edification, so that each one reach one. We're doing this thing together, and we're learning and really, tasking ourselves to learn even further, right? Because there's a level of knowledge that you get in, and then there's also this level of knowledge that I want you to go beyond that. So be excellent, be great, be just be magical, right? So like I said, I want to thank everybody for chiming in with me, now and even in the future, right? So even last night, we had a great time. I want to say most definitely, I appreciate, all of the likes, the follows, the shares, just all of the attention that people are able to put onto, some of the things that I release, right? And it's not my goal or my intention, to do this thing for vainness or just to blow up. It's my intention to really help those that are trying to get into the kingdom, right? And then some of the other things I share as far as the arts and entertainment, the economic development, the financial literacy, and then the health and wellness. That's about building a better community, right? So through all of it, it's about upliftment and giving back and reaching back and making sure that I'm putting myself in a position to just do my part. Use my skill sets, my talents, and continue to grow those skill sets and talents, and then put myself in a position where shoot, maybe even I could meet some people. So that's really what it's all about. That's really what it's all about. Um, like I said, doing my part, being the best that I could be, right? And I hope that's really what you guys are doing too. But without any further ado, we're going to really get into tonight's lesson, right? And continue down this journey and this exploration down Revelation. But before we do that, we want to open it up and usher in, the Most High into this space. So we'll open up in prayer, in the prayer. And so I'm long-winded when I pray, so I'll give you the short prayer, which is we're in Matthew 6, right? And we're going to pick up at, what's that, verse 9, middle of verse 9. And it says, Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. Amen. All right. Now, before I get into reading Revelation, I do want to touch on one quick subject, and this is, for the people who already know me and just for the people who will, view this, videos and things of that nature in the future. I do heavily use the word Jesus, right? So Jesus Christ, right? That's a name which we all could, for the most part, connect with, right? But I do understand that as I'm going through, some of my lessons, and if you see some of my other videos, I will reference all of the other names which Jesus Christ is synonymous for as well, because we have to understand the reason why some individuals use different names is because they're just understanding the etymology of words. at a certain point, the letter J was not in the Hebrew language. So this is why you may hear, a lot of camps or other, just other individuals using other words that are attributed to Jesus, right? So like I said, even the first day I was reading, I do use the King James version of the Bible, right? As well. A lot of people do not use the King James version of the Bible. So it just goes to show the different variety of choice, right? So don't get thrown off if you ever hear Yahshua, Yahweh, Melchizedek, Jehovah. The list goes on as far as the names, right? The most powerful name, which I always want to use, and I'm going to make this my business to, kind of put it more in my vocabulary. I am that I am, right? Right. That's the name. That's the name. It's also a powerful name, right? And it gets away from, turning people off with using other names, right? But I definitely wanted to touch base on that before we continue any further, right? Just to put people at ease and just to kind of let individuals know what is being said, and that gives you a little bit more information to go do your research to find out, what are some of these names, and also be careful with names, because names evoke power, right? So that's why, I do use the name Jesus, most prevalent, because I don't personally speak the language Hebrew, right? It's a pure language that the people that are still in the land speak, but the Most High said He would give us a pure language to speak, and He also said He would speak with us with in whatever tongue of the land that we're in. I happen to be in America, right? So I speak English, right? I was taught that, right? So Jesus being a Latin derivative, right? That's the name that I could connect with, right? But I also could do my research and find out the other names which are pertinent, right? But I also understand being leery of, not going too deep and down a rabbit hole, so you're not invoking names and using names which, you have no understanding of, right? So I won't go deeper into that one, right? We want to get back on track, but most definitely it was important to mention, right? It was important to mention, right? So let's see here. Let's get into the lesson here tonight. I hope everybody's excited, man. I hope y'all having a good time, right? So let's get into it. Let's see here, man. And most definitely, I thank y'all for pressing play, tapping in, and taking flight with me, especially as we're down this spiritual pillar, right? So the spirituality pillar, we're diving deep down in day 3, Revelations 9 through 12 today, right? So as you may recall, last night, 4 seals were open, right? Four seals, right? And 7 seals were already open. I should say that the seven seals of the book were open, and then that put us in a position where the 7 angels with the 7 trumpets are before us now. And instead of four seal, I don't know what I just said a moment ago, but 4 trumpets have been blown so far. So that's where we left off last night, the 4 trumpets being blown. Now we're on the final 3 trumpets being blown, okay? And if this is your first day taking a look at videos, I would say, hey, go back, right? Because this is day 3. So if you build upon the days, you won't be lost, right? So you'll kind of be able to reference what I'm saying, right? So let's pick up. Revelations 9, verse 1. And the 5th angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven onto the earth. And to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there rose a smoke out of the pit, as the smoke of a great furnace. And the sun and the air were darkened by reason of smoke of the pit. And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those which have not the seal of God in their forehead. So remember last night, right, before that the 7th trumpet was blown, what happened? The angels came forth and said, that were holding the 4 winds back, right? They said, hurt not God's servants until they receive the seal of the living God in their forehead, right? So this is what that is alluding to, right? So now these locusts, they will be released, and they will have an opportunity to hurt every living creature on earth, right? Except for the saints that have the seal of the living God in their forehead. So man, it's a powerful, right? So you either get the seal of the living God or you get the mark of the beast, right? Choose wisely, choose wisely, choose wisely. So verse 5, picking up. And to them it was given that they should not kill them, but they should be tormented 5 months. And their torment was as the torment of scorpions when he striketh a man. And in those days shall men seek death, and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee them. And the shapes of the locusts were like unto horses prepared unto battle, and unto their heads were as it were crowns like gold, and their faces were as the faces of men, but they had hair as hair of women, and their teeth were as the teeth of lions, and they had breastplates, and they as it were breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings were like the sounds of chariots of many horses running to battle, and they had tails like scorpions, and there were stings in their tails, and their power was to hurt men 5 months. 5 months. And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon, right? Right. So you see, even there, right, when I was referencing just a little bit about, the language and the various names which you may hear attributed to Jesus, right? Even there, as they ended, it said the Hebrew tongue Abaddon, but then it tells you in the Greek language Apollyon, right? So just kind of reference, right, that the etymology of words it'll be very crucial, right, for you to kind of understand some things. But let's go here, right? These locusts are released from the bottomless pit, right? And these locusts have the power to actually hurt mankind for 5 months, right? Not kill them, right? But hurt them to the point that mankind is going to desire death, but death is going to elude mankind. Now, this is actually speaking of mankind. Man, this will be an army of men that will be released, right? And you have to keep in mind the imagery that's being painted in this book of Revelation is a very vivid imagery, but it's also imagery of what is to come, right? So imagine speaking in the imagine an individual in the imagine an individual living in the 1980s getting a glimpse of right now 2022 and having to describe to people living in 1980 what it is we do on computers or how cars look or how telephones look, right? So that gives you a little bit of an idea of how this imagery is. It could seem so disconnected to us as individuals, right? Because it's like, wow, locusts as big as, with hair like women and, teeth like lions and faces like men, right? And breastplates of iron and, they go forth torturing men and they hurt not the grass or the earth, but they go forth torturing men and men wish to die, right? So that's why it's painted in that way, because this is John the Baptist receiving this vision millenniums ago, right? But describing what will happen in the future, right? So that is why the imagery that's telling you that it's locusts, but it's actually men, and this is an army of men that will be prepared, that are going to be the Eastern Hemisphere army coming to do battle with the Western Hemisphere, right? Now, it gives me this idea of the reason why it says that they were given power to hurt mankind but not kill mankind. It sounds very much like chemical warfare, germ warfare, right? Because keep in mind, this book is still explaining war. It's still explaining of the last three holy wars, right? Well, the wars that will be holy wars, but keep in mind it's going to be 3 battles, right? But we'll explain that even more to give you more context as well. But so that's what this is all about, war, right? So that's what gives me this idea that this is speaking of biological warfare, right? Because it's explaining, the things that they have on their head, right? They have the faces of man, but then they have crowns of gold, right? They have breastplates, right? So this is an army, right? But this army is using some type of tactics which harm their enemies, but does not kill their enemies. How many other things can you think of besides germ warfare, right? Right, that'll do something like that, right? So that's really what that context is explaining, right? Now let's continue on. Verse 12. One woe is past, right? Because remember last night there were three. The angel that was flying in the midst of the heaven said, "Woe, woe, woe," for reason of the final three trumpets and the final three angels which have not sounded, right? So we just read about the fifth angel. So one woe is past, and behold, there come two woes more hereafter. And the sixth angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar which is before God, saying to the sixth angel which had the trumpet, loose the four angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates. And the four angels were loose, which were prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year, for to slay a third part of men. Wow, a third part of men. It's to slay. So this is another army, right? Coming forth to slay a third part of men. And the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000. And I heard the number of them. And thus I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them having breastplates of fire and of jacinth, and brimstone, and the heads of the horses were the heads of lions, and out of their mouth issued fire and the smoke and brimstone. By these three was a third part of men killed, by the fire and by the smoke and by the brimstone which issued out of their mouth. For their power is in their mouth and in their tails. For their tails were like unto serpents, and they had heads, which them they do hurt. And the rest of the men which were not killed by these plagues, yet repented not of their hands, that they should not worship devils and idols of God, gold and silver and brass and stone and of wood, which neither can see, nor hear, nor walk, neither repented they of their murders, nor of their sorceries, nor of their fornication, nor of their thefts. Right? So in the midst of all of this happening, these men and women in their pride, right, and their pride still will not repent and turn to the true living God, right, and get their understanding, right? They would much rather still worship these idols, as it says here, which have, right. They still want to, what does it say right here? That they should worship devils and idols of gold and silver and brass and stone, which neither can see, nor hear, nor walk. Right? Powerful words, man. That neither can see, nor hear, nor walk. Right? They rather worship a entity, a can, if you will, and not the true living God. Right? Verse 9, right? Chapter 9. Continuing on. So now we're getting into Revelation 10. All right, Revelation 10. And I saw another mighty angel. But before we even get into Revelation 10, do you see, right? Now that so you saw direct reference to the army of the east coming forth, right? You saw direct reference to that at the latter part of verse Revelation 9. So venturing into Revelation 10. And I saw another mighty angel come down from the heaven, clothed with a cloud, and a rainbow upon his head, and his face were as it were the sun, and his feet as pillars of fire. And he had in his hand a little book open, and he set his right foot upon the sea, and his left foot upon the earth, and cried with a loud voice, as when a lion roareth, And when he had cried, seven thunders uttered their voice. And when the seven thunders had uttered their voice, I was about to write, and I heard a voice from the heaven saying unto me, seal up those things which the seven thunders uttered, and write them not. And the angel which I saw stand upon the sea and upon the earth lifted up his hand to heaven, and swore by him that liveth forever and ever, who created heaven and the things that therein are, and the earth and the things that there are in, and the sea and the things which are therein, that there should be time no longer. But in the days of the voice of the seventh angel, when he shall begin to sound, the mysteries of God should be finished, right? As he hath declared to his servants, the prophets, right? And the voice which I heard from the heavens spake unto me again and said, go, take the little book which is open in the hand of the angel, which standeth upon the sea and upon the earth. And I went unto the angel and said unto him, give me the little book. And he said unto me, take it and eat it, and it shall make thy belly bitter, but in thy mouth it shall be sweet as honey. And I took the little book out of the angel's hand and ate it up. And it was in my mouth sweet as honey. And as soon as I had eaten it, my belly was bitter. And he said unto me, thou must prophesy again before my peoples, and my nations, and my tongues, and my kings. Wow. So what is Revelation 10? What is John telling us in Revelation 10? All right. So what he's alluding, and what the imagery he's painting in Revelation 10 here is that 6 angels have sounded their horn, their trumpet, right? A 7th angel has to sound his trumpet as well. And as we see here, it says, right, when he shall begin to sound, the mysteries of God shall be finished, right? So 7 being completion. You remember, I keep saying that. That's the theme, 7 being completion. So when the 7th trumpet is blown, right, the mysteries of God, it was going to be finished, right? It's going to be complete, right? So that's what he's warning us of, right? So we're going into the realization of God the Son when that 7th trumpet is sounded. But he's also telling us a little bit later in Revelation 10, more specifically, once he was verse 9, once he was told to go and eat the little book. So he took it and he ate it up. And it tells us it shall make thy belly bitter, right? So that means it's going to make your belly ache, right? It's like it's not going to feel as well when you digest it, right? But in your mouth, as you're eating it, it's going to be, oh so sweet, oh, so beautiful, oh, the best thing. What is this alluding to? This is alluding to this book, right? This is alluding to this book, right? So when it's in his mouth, John's mouth, he's in the book. He's learning the book. He's been taught the book. He's grappling with the book. He's getting an understanding of the book, right? Right? So he's doing his due diligence and his duty to be in this case, a saint of the Most High, right? A prophet of the Most High, right? To usher in the word of the Most High and prepare the Messiah on his coming, because John the Baptist is the individual that baptized the Messiah, which is the Christ, which is Jesus, right? Which is what I alluded to at the beginning. Yahashua, Yahweh, Yahshua, Yeshua, right? Melchizedek, I am that I am, right? So all those words, right? So in John's mouth, this word was the best thing. But once he began going out to the people and prophesying and teaching and trying to reach the people, he noticed that, you know what? The people weren't as receptive. Right? The people thought that he was out of his mind. The people thought he was nuts because he was actually giving them the unadulterated true word of God. Right? The book. He wasn't giving us his opinion. No, he was reading and he was teaching and he was reaching and he was making sure that he prepared the saints of the Most High. So that's what's explained at the end of Revelation 10 by that book being sweet in his mouth but bitter in his belly. And this is something I grapple with as well, throughout my journey, because I was raised Baptist, and a large part of my family is Baptist, right? But when you venture into some another understanding or a deeper level of understanding, individuals, family members, friends, everyone may look at you like, what's this coat that you're in? What's this that you're all about, right? So this is why the journey of the saints is not an easy journey, right? Walking the righteous path is not an easy path. Doing things which other individuals do and which the world has presented as being gracious and noteworthy and righteous, when you go against that grain, it's hard at times, right? But when you have the strength and the blood covering of the Most High, it makes that journey just that much more easier, right? Wow, people. We're touching on a lot just by getting into Revelations. We're touching on a lot, right? So let's continue on. So Revelations 11. We are now at the angel in the temple. And there was given unto me a reed like unto a rod. And the angel stood, saying, Rise, and measure the temple, and the altar, and them that worship therein. But the court which is without the temple leave out, and measure it not. For it is given unto the Gentiles. Who are the Gentiles? Right? So Noah had 3 sons, Ham, Shem, Japheth, right? So the Gentiles are the sons of Japheth, right? These are our European human brothers and sisters, right? So it goes on to say, and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles, and the holy city shall they tread underfoot 42 months. And I will give power unto my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days, which is also equivalent to 3.5 years. Now they're going to be clothed in sackcloth. These are the 2 olive trees, the trees of peace, an olive branch, right? If someone extends an olive branch to you, they extend a peace treaty, right? They're trying to set peace. And the 2 candlesticks standing before the God of earth. So these 2 witnesses is referencing them, right? So they're the 2 olive trees. They're also the 2 candlesticks standing before God of earth, right? And if any man will hurt them, fire proceedeth out of their mouth and devoureth their enemies. And if any man will hurt them, he must in this manner be killed. These have power to shut heaven, that it rain not in the days of their prophecy, and have the power over waters to turn them to blood, and to smite the earth with all plagues as often as they will. And when they shall have finished their testimony, the beast that ascendeth out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them, and shall overcome them and kill them. So these two witnesses, they're going to get an opportunity to do amazing wonders before the people by way of the Most High, right? But at the same token, the beast, which is going to come by way of the bottomless pit, after that 3.5 years of those 2 witnesses being able to prophesy and do those wonders before the people, they will become killed, right? So will be murdered, right? So the story is intense, people. Verse 7, and when they shall have finished their testimony, the beast that ascended out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them, and shall overcome them and kill them. And their dead bodies shall lie in the streets of the great city, which spirituality is called Sodom and Egypt, where also the Lord was crucified. Same place. And they of the people and the kindreds and the tongues and the nations shall see their dead bodies 3.5 days. So they're going to prophesy for 3.5 days, and then even their dead bodies are going to be visible. So they're not going to be able to. So they're not going to be able to prophesy for 3.5 days, right? So during this 3.5 days, essentially people are going to be rejoicing. We're going to read it. We're going to read it here. And the people, verse 9, and they of the people and the kindreds and the tongues of the nation shall see their dead bodies 3 days and a half, and shall not suffer their dead bodies to be put in graves. So they didn't even bury them. And they that dwell upon the earth shall rejoice over them. They're happy, they're delighted, and make merry, and shall send gifts one another. Right? So, oh, you talk about a foul people. Because these two prophets tormented them that dwelt on the earth. Why did they torment them? How are they tormenting them? Going back to that book that John was saying, that in his mouth it was sweet, but in his belly it was bitter, because those two prophets were teaching them the word, the unadulterated word. The two prophets were giving them the word, the truth. But these people took it as, oh, you're torturing me, right? Because you're giving me something I don't want to hear. You're giving me something I don't want to deal with. You're giving me something that I'm saying I'm writing off as false. So that's what that's all about. Because these two prophets tormented them that dwelt on the earth. And after 3 days and a half, the spirits of life from God entered into them. And they stood upon their feet, and great fear fell upon them which saw them. And they heard a great voice from the heaven saying unto them, Come up hither. And they ascended up to heaven in a cloud. And their enemies beheld them. And the same hour was there a great earthquake, and the earth 10th part of the city fell. And in the earthquake were slain of men 7,000, and the remnant were affrighted, and gave glory to the God of heaven. Before we continue going on, it's a lot being talked about. Now, it's a lot being talked about, and I'm not going to over-explain it, because as we continue to read over the next couple of days, it's going to allude back to this, and I'll be able to explain a little bit going backwards as well, right? So this is powerful. This is good stuff. This is good stuff. But essentially what he's saying is describing what the world has come to equate as the rapture. Did you see where it said here? And they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, Come up hither. And they ascended up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. Right? So imagine it. They're going up. Birds eye, they're going up like birds. Birds eye view, they're going up, right? So it's describing the saints of the Most High going up. So this is where at Christianity and everybody has taught rapture, but it's not really a rapture, right? So 'cause these people are not just going to disappear and just go to what has been taught is heaven, where we won't be able to see them. That's why it says right there at the end, their enemies beheld them. You will be able to see them. This is describing the saints in the first resurrection being called up to meet the Christ in the sky on his coming. That is what that's describing. This is not a rapture where you'll be in the field and someone just disappears and you don't know, wait, someone was driving a car and then all of a sudden the car just left and the car ran into the ditch. And I don't know where they went. No, the people will be able to see the saints being called up to meet the Christ in the heavens, in the sky, right? He's going to be coming, Jesus Christ is going to be coming from the third heaven, descended into the second heaven, which is the sky, and the saints, which will be raised from the dead in the first resurrection, will start descending up to meet him. That is what this is alluding to. That is what that is describing. But as I mentioned, we're going to continue as we read this Revelations. It's gonna allude back. It's going to reference back to it in future chapters. Okay, right? So that is what's going on there, and also it's describing the two witnesses. So the two witnesses, their bodies were not put in the graves, and also their bodies were slain in the same place, the exact same place as the Christ. It gives us that. It gives us that knowledge. Where did it say that at? Dead bodies. It mentions it, and what chapter? What chapter here? Right here, verse 8. Right, which is spiritually called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified. So these saying the two olive trees, right? The two candlesticks, the two witnesses going forth to prophesy during those 3.5 years of tribulation, right? So let's continue on. And it also described the Christ coming and the saints meeting him in the sky, because it says here, and they ascended up to heaven in a cloud. Not to the third heaven where God the Father is at, the second heaven, which is the sky. So it's 3 heavens. Right? The earth, right? Then the second heaven being the sky, and then a firmament separating that going to the third heaven, right? So that is what that's describing. That's why people have taken it and run with it and confused the masses to think that people are going to be raptured off to heaven with God the Father. No one is going with God the Father, because at the end of this Revelations, we're going to learn that the heaven, the New Jerusalem, is going to come down. So all the pieces of the puzzle are going to get put together. Stay along the journey to learn the pieces of the puzzle. It's all being taught in this book of Revelation. And they ascended up to heaven, and their enemies beheld. And the same hour, so at the same time this was happening, there was a great earthquake on earth, and 1/10 part of the city fell. And the earthquake were slain men, 7,000 men. And the people that remained, right? So the people that were not in the first resurrection, this is what it means by the remnant. They were affrighted. Can you imagine seeing, loved ones or deceased loved ones being risen again, and you see them, but you're not being risen? This is why the people that remain still living were affrighted and gave glory to the God of heaven. The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. So last night, 4 trumpets sounded. Tonight, 2 trumpets sounded. So 4 plus 2, 6. So now we just want more trumpet to sound, and the third woe cometh quickly. The last trumpet, verse 15. And the 7 angels sounded, and there were a great voice in heaven, saying, the kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of our Lord and of his Christ, and he shall reign forever and ever. Didn't it say that once that 7 trumpets sound, the mysteries of God will be revealed or will be finished? Didn't I tell you that this is about the war, right? The holy war and the holy wars, right? That will continue to follow. And it tells you right there, the kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of our Lord and of his Christ, and he shall reign forever and ever. What kingdom do you know ever in history that has been taken over, or a dynasty has fallen without warship? Make it make sense, people. Make it make sense, people. It's right there. Let's continue. Verse 16. And the 24 elders, which sat before God in their seats, fell upon their faces and worshiped God, saying, we give thee thanks, O Lord God Almighty, which art and was and art to come, because thou hast taken to thee great power and hast reigned, and the nations were angry, and thy wrath is come, and the time of the dead, and they shall be judged, and that thou shouldest give reward unto the servants and the prophets, and to the saints, and them that fear thy name, small and great, and shouldest destroy them which destroyeth the earth. Do war with those which destroyeth the earth. Verse 19. And the temple of God was open in heaven, and there was seen in his temple the ark in his testament, and there was lightning and voices and thunderings and an earthquake and a great hail. Remember that heaven rolled back like a scroll. So as the heaven rolled back like a scroll, we could visually see the Christ descending from the third heaven, entering into the second heaven, coming into the first heaven. All right. So that is why at that point in time, we also was able to see the ark, the temple, right? That's what it says. And there was seen in his temple the ark in his testimony. So we saw that we will be able to see the ark of the covenant in the testimony. And also there was lightnings and voices and thunderings and that earthquake, which killed 7,000 men. It's beautiful, people. The most beautiful word. The most beautiful word. You just have to deal with the word. And also, it reminds me of the story of the individual that was on the road to go ahead, and he was going to actually 3 times a year, mankind must go before the church and present themselves to the church, right? So this is 3 times: the beginning of the season, the middle of the season, the end of the season. And this describes the Feast of Unleavened Bread. This describes the Pentecost, and this describes the Feast of Ingathering. So there was this certain individual, he was traveling to actually celebrate one of these 3 feasts. But along, he was a Ethiopian, and along his travels, he stopped and he was reading the Bible, right? And one of the prophets, one of the apostles, walked up to him, and he asked him. He said, "Do you understand what you're reading?" And the Ethiopian actually looked at him and said, How would I understand unless I be taught? And this is the same thing and same kind of concepts which we run into as we talk about. And this is why it's so important for me, for myself, to personally do this reading and help share the knowledge that I have with individuals perhaps that do not have this knowledge and continue to build, because oftentimes we lack knowledge because we're not connected with the individuals who possess the right knowledge. Right? So let's say that again. Oftentimes we lack knowledge because we're not connected with the individuals which have the correct knowledge. So we're not empowered by the right people to tell us which way to go, which way not to go, right? There's also a saying that a man who knows not and knows not he knows not is a fool. Sure him. A man who knows not and knows he knows not is foolish. Kick him. Right? A man who knows and knows not he knows is a student. Awake him. A man who knows and knows he knows is wise. Follow him. So that's the problem. Sometimes we attach ourselves to the man or the woman who think they're wise, fail to realize that they're not wise, but by you being foolish, you follow them. Right? And sometimes you have the knowledge, you don't know that you have the knowledge. A person like myself, or a person that does have the knowledge and is grappling with the knowledge, and I'm not just all knowing, right? So now, when I say a person like myself, I'm not all knowing, but just a person that does have some knowledge and some understanding, or has tapped into that greater knowledge and understanding. They just have to nudge you and tell you what you already do know, because remember, this word is written on our heart. So this word is going to be hard to understand, perhaps sometimes on face value, but when you deal with this word and you really, here it is on Thursday at 11 at night, and I'm in this word. Here it is on Sabbath, Friday, sundown, all the way to Saturday, sundown, I'm in my word, right? So that's remember what I said, it's going to be bitter in your belly. It's hard to walk the life and do right when wrong is just so easily accessible to us. So it's important to be connected with the right individuals. It's important to understand wisdom, but it's also important to do some self-reflection and say, you know what? Is some of the stuff that I've been reading in the past, or is my level of understanding up to par? If a person were born on this earth, or if an alien entity came to this earth and we were tasked with explaining to them the Most High, and we did not have the Bible, could you explain the Most High from the Old Testament to the New Testament? Do you understand the stories, various stories of the Bible? So that's what I mean by that self-analyzation, right? And self-reflection. If you're not to that level, then maybe you should humble yourself and you say, you know what? There are people and individuals that seem to like, wow, they have a lot of understanding. And they don't just take me to one verse, they could take me to multiple verses. They could take me to the Old Testament, to the New Testament. They could take me to Moses, the law. They could take me to the apostles. They could take me to the prophecy. They could take me to the writings. They could show me poetry. Like, they could show me everything. They could touch just about every topic in human emotion that I feel. Until you tap into those type of people and those type of individuals, and houses and churches which connect the full Bible, because that's the problem. A lot of these places don't connect the full Bible, and that's why we have to clean up this idea of what the rapture is. That's why I have to clean up this idea of, where are people going? Which heaven is it? So this why it's so much confusion, because the doctrine is bad. If you go back to my video, day one, there were seven angels which were delivering messages to the seven churches. And in these messages, it was telling them a large part of what, a lot of the time, like your churches, you have the zeal of God, but a lot of the message, a lot of you bringing, the saints to the Most High is not happening. In fact, you're pushing the saints farther from the Most High, because you're telling them that they don't have to even read this book and understand it. They don't have to follow it. You only have to follow a portion of it, just a portion of it, right? So be wary of those people. I went on a soapbox there, but it was so important, because it draws the connection to this book, and it draws the connection to Revelation being the last book, but Revelation doing direct iteration to all of the previous 65 other books. Very important. So let's continue on. What do we see there? It says war in heaven. And this is why people are so confused, because it says war in heaven, right? But keep in mind, people, it's not the third heaven. God the Father is in the third heaven. So that's what we have to understand. Just is levels to this. Right? So the war in the second heaven, and the war in this heaven being the earth, right? Let's take a sip here. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with, and this heaven is telling you the sky. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars, the 12 tribes of Israel, the 12 sons of Jacob. That's what the 12 stars iterate. And she, being with a child, crying, travailing in birth, being with a child, Mary, right? Being forth with a child, the Christ, right? And pain to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven. And behold, a great red dragon, devil, Lucifer, Satan, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his head. That's important, people. He has 7 heads, he has 10 horns, and he has 7 crowns. So on each one of those heads, there are 7 crowns, which directly relate to kings, right? Who wear crowns? Kings. So these 7 heads represent 7 kingdoms, right? And then also 10 horns. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven. His tail drew a third part of the stars. So what that's meaning is giving us direct reference to when Lucifer, Satan, was cast out of the heaven. Right? When he was cast out, it also tells us in the Bible that a third part of the angels followed Satan. So this is why it says a third part of the stars of heaven, and were cast to the earth with him. And the dragon stood before the woman which was ready to be delivered, for to devour the child as soon as it were born. So that's describing Satan being on earth to devour the Christ before he's even born. So he's trying to devour the message or the continuation of the message which the Christ was bringing forth to us. Because keep in mind, Christ has been with us from the beginning. He was the tree of life, right? Ever since the beginning of creation, he's been with us. As he brought us out of Egypt, he was with us. He was the pillar. He was the cloud during the day and the pillar of fire at night. So he was with us coming out of Egypt. He was with us when he was born. He was given a body. He was with us. He's been with us even as he's sitting on the right hand of the God the Father in the third heaven. He's still with us. He gives us his angels, which are ministering spirits, which is the Holy Ghost, to come tell us all the things that we need. So he's continued to be with us, right? But once Satan, the devil, Lucifer, was cast out of heaven, that third heaven, he brought a third part of those angels with him. So that's what it's describing when it says with his tail, he drew a third part of the stars of the heaven. Okay? And he was there to devour the Christ, so the Christ will not continue to give us his beautiful message. So what did the woman do? And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she hath a place prepared of God, that she should be fed here, that they should feed her 1,260 days. So the woman had to flee into the wilderness for 3.5 days. So this is telling us at this point in time that it's also describing us being the saints of the Most High, because the devil, that red dragon, is out going to and fro, causing death and destruction. So he's looking to devour the Christ. He's also looking to devour the true and living saints. So even as we go into the 3.5 years of tribulation, if you happen to not be one of the saints that are called up into the first resurrection, remember I just described the first saints being called up into the heaven, the second heaven, right? Coming into the first heaven as the Christ is coming, right? Those saints, if you don't happen to be one of those saints and you're still living, then that's what it's describing. That dragon wants to do war with you. He wants to do war with you during that 3.5 years of tribulation. And that's what this 1,260 days is referencing, right? And it's also referencing the saints, okay? So hope that makes sense. So both the Christ, right, and the saints, but also the woman in the sky with the 12 stars, being the 12 tribes of Israel, being with child, being the Christ, travailing in birth, and also that red dragon standing in the way, trying to impede the progress. And also the description of the dragon. All of this is important. 7 heads, 10 horns, 7 crowns. Okay? Verse 7. And there was a war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not. Neither was there found a place any more in heaven. So get kicked out. And the great dragon was cast out, and that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. So tricked the whole world, gave the whole world false doctrine, gave the whole world this false sense of peace, this false sense of understanding. Deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth. So he was cast out of the third heaven, but he's cast into the earth with us in this present day still, right? So this is why you have to be leery of individuals that you meet. That first individual that I just described, a man who's not wise but think he's wise. That's the devil that you want to be leery of, right? Because that's the devil want to come forth and deceive you. He wants to give you a confusion because he's confused himself. He wants to trick you, right? Let's continue. And I heard I heard a loud voice saying to heaven, "Now is come salvation and strength and the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ." Who is salvation? The Christ. It's directly what it means. Salvation. Messiah. Christ. Salvation. And strength. And the kingdom. His kingdom is to come. He's telling us in so many different ways his kingdom is to come. And the power of his Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night, and they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb. So overcome this false doctrine, overcome this evilness, overcome this misdirection, overcome this devil in your ear telling you, "Oh, it's okay." It's not okay. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath. He's angry because he's cast out of heaven. He wants to be the ruler of heaven, right? Because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. So the devil even understands that I have a period of time which I have to do all that I want to accomplish. Because once my time is over, then my time is over. I have to still bow down to the Most High. So even the devil understands that. Verse 13. And when the dragon saw that he was cast onto the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man child. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she is nourished for a time, and times, and half a time. So what is that? And times. 2, a time, 1. So 2 plus 1, 3, and half a time. 3.5. That's another reference to that 3.5 years. From the face of the serpent, and the serpent cast out of his mouth water as of a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. So he cast out a lot of confusion. He cast out a lot of doctrine. He gave you a lot of options. He gave you a lot of different people to connect to, but a lot of different people that's not going to get you to the promised land. He gave you a lot of different books to read that's not going to get you to the promised land, right? The one book that you have to read is that one, right? But a lot of people have never read it in their whole life, right? So you see, so this is what it means by he cast forth a flood to actually carry away the woman. But what did the earth do? And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood, which the dragon cast out of his mouth. So the earth is trying to help us. Is a direct reference that the earth is helping the woman bringing forth the man child, and it's also direct reference to the earth trying to help us, the saints, get a better understanding. So the earth is showing us signs of what is happening, what was, what is, and what is to come. So that's what it's showing us, right? The earth opened up his mouth and it swallowed up the flood, which the devil cast out of his mouth. And the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnants of her seed. So now the dragon said, I can't get you. I can't get you, Mary. I can't get to you, Jesus. I can't get to you all. So you know what? I'm mad. I'm big mad. So now I'm going to go make war with the saints. And you know what? God the Father, I'm going to steal your creation. So this is why free will is so important. But this is why you have to understand free will. Because you do get free will. But with that free will, with every action has a direct reaction, right? For every action, there's a reaction, right? So for every action, there's a consequence. So that free will is powerful. This is what all of this is explaining. Verse 17, and the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God. That's so powerful. Let's read that again, people. Let's read that again, because this is so important. Which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. One more time, people. One more time. And the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed. Went to make war with the people, with the bloodline, with the true people, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. So that's all I have for you all tonight, people. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it. Because as you see, I get worked up when I get in this book. I get so mad. Oh, wow. I thank the Most High for giving me the energy and just the knowledge, the wisdom, the understanding, the patience, and just the foresight. And just that, when I say patience, right, it takes great patience, right? I couldn't tell you how many times I have to, over-explain and re-explain, some of the different concepts to people, as it relates to the Most High. But that's what it's all about, right? If we're not helping each other get an understanding, really for people who want the understanding. I'm not preaching to those people who pushing against. If you pushing against, hey, I understand, right? You have another cup of tea. But if you want this knowledge and you want to wrap your head around it and grapple with it, it's quite the pleasure for me to be on this journey with you. It's quite the pleasure. So we're going to take a break tomorrow. A little bit of life going on. So we're going to take a break tomorrow, but we will be picking back up with Revelation 13 through 17. And I want to do that actually on Saturday. So the Sabbath day. So we will pick that up Saturday, and I want to actually do that this Saturday at 3 p.m. So Saturday at 3 p.m. That's when we'll be picking up as well, going live, and I'm going ahead and picking up as well from Revelation 13 through 17, and then we'll round out. We have one more day to do after that one. Okay. So that's all I have for you people. So the next time my voice meets your ears, remember, no matter what's your vantage point, no matter what's your perspective, always seek to harmonize this world by celebrating culture, increasing understanding, and building bonds of respect. Melanin that's woke, people. Hey, Birds Eye View, over and out. God bless. Love.